Hey, it's Abby from The Good Enough Garden, and this video is going to explain 3 different ways to harvest lettuce. It's April here in Nashville, Tennessee, and all my garden friends are growing lettuce, and some of their plants are getting big enough so they can start eating those delicious leaves. So I'm going to talk about 3 different ways that you can harvest your lettuce, kind of depending on what varieties you're growing and how you've planted it. The first way is a head of lettuce, and this is really great for things like iceberg and romaine. Um, and I don't have any plants that are ready to be harvested in that way today. It takes longer for them to develop into a nice big head. So I've got a few that I'm going to do that with, but I'm letting them grow a few more weeks before I'll harvest them. The second way is to carefully harvest the outer leaves of the plant. And the third way I'm calling the hedge trimmer method. And this is for things like mesclun and arugula when you've got them planted like pretty thickly and you want to eat baby greens. So all you need to bring out with you to the garden is a pair of scissors. I just use my kitchen scissors and a bowl to put your lettuce in. I put it right into the bowl of my salad spinner because it's going to go right in the kitchen and get washed as soon as I cut it. All right, so here is a little patch of lettuce in my raised bed garden. Over here I've got a mesclun mix that I just broadcast the seeds. So I filled in that whole square with seeds sown very lightly, and they've grown into a nice kind of carpet of greens, baby greens. Here's a romaine, a red romaine variety. So actually, the first type of harvesting is the one that I'm not going to show you today. It is letting the entire plant grow into a nice thick head of lettuce and then cutting it all at once. And these are not ready yet. I'm letting these 2 plants grow into a full head. So I'm leaving those alone. I'm not harvesting any from those at the moment. These 2 I am harvesting in my second method, which is just to cut the outer leaves. So I usually just gently poke around, see which are the nice biggest leaves. Take 2 or 3 from each plant. You don't want to take more than a third, more than half of the leaves. They grow in kind of a spiral, so you can follow the pattern around. They grow from the center. So those are the newest baby leaves down in the center, and these here are the old ones. And like I said, don't take more than half because they do need to have some nice leaves to catch sun. But yeah, that's it. Already got a decent harvest there from those 2 plants. And I'm doing the same with this. Harvesting from these 2 and giving these 2 a little more room and time to grow. Now, actually, got an issue here. So this is square foot gardening. I've got 4 plants in my square, but I can tell that there are actually 2 in this section because there are 2 centers of growth, 2 growth points, one right there and one right here. So since I'm letting those grow into heads, I need them to get nice and big and have plenty of room and not be squished. I've got the same situation here too. So I'm actually going to go ahead and cut one of these completely out and just go ahead, harvest the whole thing, kill the plant. There's just a few little bugs in there. This is a good time to check for slugs and aphids on your plants when you're harvesting. But yeah, see, that whole plant is now probably gonna die. It might try to grow more from the center there, but that should mostly kill it off. Now we'll let that one grow into a head. Gosh, I really double seeded all of these. I've got 2 plants here too. I wonder if this variety is prone to do that. All right, so that's the first method. Just cut the outer leaves, and as you can see, you can get like a decent salad's worth just from a few plants. These are nice and big. All right, let's show the next method. Okay, what did I say I was calling this? I think the hedge trimmer. So this is my full square of mesclun. It's really thick, and these you want to eat as baby greens. So what you can do is take your scissors and literally just cut, like give the whole thing a haircut. Kind of grab a handful, or as my friend Sean says, hold its ponytail back, and then cut. Now you don't want to cut all the way down to the roots. Leave about an inch, inch and a half of the plant there, because what happens is that all these plants can continue to grow from their center growth point if you don't cut too deep, if you leave that intact. See, their baby leaves are still in there, and its center growth is protected way down in there. So if I leave that, then they will continue to grow. So essentially, you're doing the same thing. You're cutting the outer leaves, but you're just not being as careful about it because they're so tightly packed in here. You just kind of grab a handful and cut across. You can be meticulous about it and go through and find each individual plant and cut off its 2 or 3 biggest leaves, but you know, there's hundreds in here. That's just going to take all day if you kind of want to go through and pick them out like that. So what I'll do is cut about, I've got a great salad here. Cut about a half of this square foot and let the other half keep growing. And I'll come and harvest that maybe next week or in a few days. And then all this will grow up again. And in about a week or 2, I'll have another crop here ready to harvest. So long as it doesn't get too hot and or get stressed in some other way, all this should grow up again. So there's method 2, calling it the hedge trimmer. So just a close up here. So these, were the ones that were cut. This leaf right in the middle is intact, and then down in there is even another leaf that's coming up. So that's how you want to leave it when you do the hedge trimmer. Lots of little baby growth points in there that can keep on coming. So we talked about how to harvest lettuce, but I do want to say a couple things about when. First of all, how big should the plants be? Well, it really depends on your growing conditions, how long it's going to take, but the most important thing is for them to be well established and vigorously growing. In these 2 methods that I showed you, the gently cutting the outer leaves and then the hedge trimmer, you're not cutting that center growth point, so they will continue to grow. You just want to take, not so much of the plant that they can't survive. But yeah, once they're well established and vigorously growing, you can start harvesting them. What you saw from me, my romaine lettuce has been growing for 10 weeks. I started it indoors and then transplanted it out here 6 weeks ago. And the mesclun mix was direct sowed at that time, 6 weeks ago. So that gives you kind of an estimate. You'll also have probably on your seed packet a days to harvest, might say like 50 days or something like that. So that can give you another estimate of when it'll be ready. But really just look for them to be actively, vigorously growing, well established, and you're not worried that if you take half the plant away, that it's going to suffer. The other thing to talk about is what time of day to harvest. And you really want to do this early morning or later in the evening, in the coolest parts of the day. You might notice your lettuce plants start to wilt if it's really warm and sunny in the middle of the day. And that's fine. It's probably not an indication that they're suffering in any way. That's a natural thing that lettuce does and other greens that don't like too much sun. But you just don't want to harvest when they're in that state because the limp leaves will not be crisp and lovely to eat. So come out early morning or late evening right before you want to have a salad, harvest that lettuce and enjoy. I hope that was really helpful and that you are growing and harvesting a ton of lettuce and eating salads every day. If you've got a different way to harvest, I would love to hear about that. So send me a message at The Good Enough Garden. And otherwise, we'll see you in a couple weeks when we harvest those heads of romaine.